Hey, welcome to The Sinner and the Saint. I'm Melissa Bell.
And I'm Allison Kane.
So I feel like we had this, New Year's starts and we come in a little bit like, wah, wah, we're tired. And then we shoot off the ramp and we're flying high and it's so fun. And spring break happens. And then there's that little dip after that, like on a roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Then there's the dip and your stomach drops out a little bit and you're trying to catch your breath again.
Yeah.
That's where I am in life today.
Yeah. I told Melissa before we started, I said, I don't even remember recording last week. It was like a fever dream. I was still in recovery mode from all the things of life. She's like, I think you did fine.
Yeah, she did great. That's just proof that God is within her, because you had no idea. I had no idea. I had a little idea, but you still speak Jesus in when you're tired.
Thank goodness.
Probably when you're drunk. Probably when you're coming off of a, when people take videos of their kids after they've been under anesthesia.
Yes.
You would probably be prophesying or, scripture reading with somebody.
I probably would.
Yeah.
I would probably be more in your face about Jesus.
But it would be about Jesus still, because that's how great Jesus is.
Yes. Which is, thank you. That's a good compliment. I think.
Yeah, I don't know that I delivered it quite well. Hey, delivery sucked, but
yeah.
No. So you did well.
Thanks for not being a naysayer in my life.
Yes, that's what we talked about last week.
But an encourager.
So last week, we finished up talking about David and Goliath and the enemies that we face when we step out in obedience to God. Mm-hmm. And all the enemies, or the naysayers, so to speak, and surprising places they come from. And so, we just talked about who's going to come up against. And you said, well, let's see it from the naysayers' perspective. So why would they have been naysayers in David's life? And I was like, whoa.
I'm so glad you remembered that I said that.
So I think that's what we should dig into today.
I do too. I think that's great. There's so many benefits of learning this skill. And
the naysaying skill?
Well, no, not to be a naysayer, but in reflecting on and considering the naysayers in our own lives. Because when we see it for what it is, then what happens is
you
that
take the power away.
Yes, and that we do. We take the power away and we see for what it is, so we don't fall prey to, their taunts, their words, their whatever. So, all right.
Can I also say one more thing?
Yeah.
When you dig into the naysayer, it makes you pause before you respond to somebody also.
It also makes them human. You see them for the person and not the response that they've given you sometimes. Well,
I think for me, if someone has good news or someone's doing something exciting, mm-hmm. and I feel a negative reaction, well, then it gives me pause to go, well, what?
Right.
What's wrong with you, girl? What's wrong with you?
Why are you feeling that in your spirit?
Right.
When you should be having a bubbly beverage and celebrating.
Right.
Yes. So we had 3 naysayers in our story of David and Goliath.
We did. The first one was his brother.
So it's always family.
Friends and family. Your close friends will not understand. So where would the brother have been coming from for him to be so negative to David?
Yeah. So I think he even said in the Message translation, basically, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be taking care of your scrawny little sheep or something like that? I mean, he was not nice about it. The typical older brother crap, right? Very belittling. And first, let's just start there. When we belittle other people, it's to build ourselves up.
Yes.
Right? And it comes from a place usually of fear and insecurity. Fear that you're not enough. An insecurity that, you're not enough, or I'm not as good a person, or I'm not as cute, or I'm not as pretty, or I'm not as popular, or I'm not whatever. He probably wasn't thinking that, but he was thinking as strong, as smart, as blessed, as whatever in biblical terms.
And here's my little punk brother.
Yeah. Who thinks he's all that? And here's Dad sending him out to save the day again.
Right. And it says he's conceited. David's brother told him he was conceited, and he knew how wicked David's heart was.
which is so interesting because usually when people say that about you, it's really how they see themselves.
Right.
So that's how he sees
Now
himself.
we know how Eliab was in real life.
Yes. Even though he may not realize it, that's basically what he's saying in that moment. So there's jealousy, there's an arrogance and a pride, which stems from all of that. I think about, too, the difference of what it could have looked like as well if his older brother hadn't have been so caught up in all of these insecurities and fears and doubts and pride and all of that. It could have been such a cool moment where they could have come together and been like, dude, that's a great idea. Nobody else has thought about this, but you're a great hunter.
Yeah.
You've got skills. You've got God on your side. Let's go to the king together and pitch this plan.
Right. And he'd be like, listen, all we're a distraction.
Yeah.
And then you could nail him in the head with one of those stones.
Yeah. I mean,
we would have totally done that together.
And what a beautiful, yes. They could have been Thelma and Louise or Allison and Melissa. But they didn't. And it just shows the poison and just destruction, that such disruption within ourselves and issues that we have within us, and when we're not handling them, can ripple effect through all the relationships. This is just a very tangible example of the things we talk about a lot.
Yes. So here's the other thing. David had put up with it so much.
Yeah.
So he's just like, next. So
Yeah.
he keeps asking the question.
Yeah, like, dude, this is so, 1610 BC or,
Yes.
whatever. And, whatever. So that is unfortunate. He was so used to this, being the little one, the runt, the youngest, like just getting probably beat up all the time and wrestled and picked
Right.
on and pranked by his brothers his whole life, that he is just ignoring it. And so I wonder too how this affected his other relationships. I mean, we get a little taste of this throughout scripture, but had he built up some walls around his heart to protect himself from all of those words and all of those, the jealousy and the doubting Thomases in his world.
Yeah, but also you think about he was talking to God all the time.
Mm-hmm. His source of strength was coming from someone else, which is good.
And I love that because you can't take that away.
That's right.
No one can take away your source of strength from God if it's truly from him, if you spent the time to build it up, right?
So true. His confidence was, as we mentioned before, God confidence, not self-confidence, which goes a long way. But I do think it is more hurtful when our naysayers are family and close friends.
Yeah.
It hurts deeper.
That's probably why I don't really reveal stuff until, I'm 90% pulling the trigger with my friends and family. I'm going to go through everybody else first. I'm going to go do all the things. So
strangers in the checkout line
Yes.
and all the things.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, because of my personality, sometimes a naysayer gives me just what I need because I'm stubborn enough.
Right.
That it gives me just what I need, a little ammunition to prove them wrong.
You're like, oh, I can't do that. I'm going to do it in 2 languages 3 times. Booyah.
Yes. Booyah, drop the mic.
Yes.
Exactly.
So the next naysayer was from an authority figure.
Mm.
And so we see this sometimes maybe with our bosses or with a leader, a teacher. Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. A lot of naysayers in my life.
It could be school or church, whatever teacher. But an authority figure over just you or many people. Usually it is, more people. And so when David he skips over his brother at this point and goes to the king. And he really tries to deter him.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you have the words. Do you have the words pulled up?
Let me see. Okay. Saul says, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth."
Oh, gosh. Well, okay. So here we have someone that is judging a book by its cover, okay, we would probably think the same thing at first, right? If we had like a young kid come to us and say,
right.
My first thing is with the king, here's just a random little fella coming. He's tinier than all of his real warriors.
Who are cowering in their tents, by the way.
Exactly, and have been for weeks. So he is worried about protecting his image.
Oh.
I think most authority figures are. His image, his reputation. Now that could go one of two ways. His image, like, how could I put a child out there? What would people think of me if I kept my army aside all these weeks and then threw a kid out there to fight the giant? Like, what is that going to say about me? Or it could be like, they'll think I'm crazy. Like, actually, I'm like, fine, I'll try whatever. But what will they say about me if I throw a kid out there and then he loses?
Right.
But whatever the reason, I think most people in authority, when they're naysayers, it is all about their reputation and their image to other people around them.
Yes. And I sit there and I think, Saul, what was it like to be Saul during all this time? You have this full army. I don't know how they paid them back then, right?
Maybe
you're paying these guys, or you're forcing these guys to sit here and no one will go. What is Saul doing every day when Goliath comes out and taunts them?
I know, like, you'd think he'd be strategizing, coming up with a plan.
Like if you watch an army movie, they're in this tent and they have the papers out and they have all the, anyway.
And maybe they were, but they just couldn't think of anything because they didn't have God on their side at the moment, or they weren't, I don't know.
Which is interesting because at least Saul does, once David points out, look, this is where I come from. Like, this guy, he's been a warrior, but I've been a shepherd boy, and God has helped me, kill lions and save my sheep and all these things. And so then the mention of God, at least Saul had enough whatever.
Right. Like, oh, God. Okay, he is powerful.
Right. Okay, so we're going to bring God in. Good.
This is good. Bring God into the lens. I haven't thought about this in my strategy report.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, it's conjecture, but
right. So
because we don't have all the information.
But Saul says, all right, go and the Lord be with you. Right? But then Saul put David in Saul's tunic, and put the coat of armor on him. So he tried to change the way David had always done battle.
Yes.
So he then controlled it. Like, go, but do it my way.
Also, another thing that I think authority figures want to do, right?
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, it was your idea, but I'm in charge, and we're going to do this thing, but we'll do it my way.
That's right. They have a whole song about that.
Yeah. But David, I mean, I just love his confidence. And he's just like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. It's not how I do things. I can't even move in this stuff.
Right.
Because how many times, and this is where we get into trouble, we know what God is calling us to. We know what works and doesn't work with ourselves, with our past. But when people in authority come in and they try to take over, we let them. Because we forget that we know, because we're connected to God and He's leading us.
Go, girl.
And we have got to stay firmly rooted in that, just like David did, where he had the confidence to say to a king, I mean, not just a boss, but a king, yeah, no, that's not going to work.
It's not going to work for me.
So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it my way, and you just sit down, and everything's going to be fine, essentially. But he was firmly rooted. He knew.
It all goes back to his personal experience with God.
Right. He was not insecure. He was not fearful. He knew that God had put him there, and he trusted that. And because he knew it, there you go. He had all the confidence in the world.
So then he goes up the hill.
Yes.
To the sneering
third naysayer.
And it's actually interesting what he said. I didn't notice this last time we talked about this. But it says, meanwhile, the Philistine, Goliath, with his shield bearer in front of him, kept coming closer to David. He looked David over and saw that he was little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, and despised him. So, really?
A little jealous,
A little
maybe?
jealous, buddy.
Yeah, because he couldn't get the cute jeans. This Goliath guy could not fit in the cute jeans at the store. His mama had to make his.
That's right. And where David was always a scrawny one, imagine Goliath was always the awkwardly huge giant one.
Right.
Right.
So he had his own insecurities, even as the giant. And I think that we forget that a lot of times. That the people that look like they have it all, that are the winners of everything,
Everyone's afraid to go against them and question them.
they have their own issues always. From the outside, it looks like everything is good. They're always winning. They're the strongest. They're the biggest. They're the greatest. They're the best. But truly, everyone inside has something that they're dealing with.
Yeah, and he built up this strong, burly, bigger than everybody else attitude. Probably, I mean, I imagine him on the schoolyard. They didn't have school back then. But just being picked on.
Yes.
Oh, well, we can only fit Goliath on that side of the table. The rest of us will sit on this side of the table. Or, you know.
So he used that to his advantage.
Yeah.
And he made it his cool factor.
Yep.
But it came out of hurt and of pain, which doesn't really make it a strength at all. So he had a lot of healing to do as well. Especially after, Dave knocks him out with the stone in the head. But
then cuts his head off.
yeah. So who are the naysayers in your life?
I have a long list.
Really?
I do.
Oh.
I think I've overcome a lot of naysayers in my life, for sure. And we talk about this a lot, but I have people I know will speak truth to me in love out of concern for my goodness.
Right.
Making sure that they have my best interest in mind. That's hard to come by.
Yes. Agreed.
But I can even go back and think about when I homeschooled my kids. Everybody from every aspect, every single person on that list, all three naysayer options there, came at me with that.
Wow.
I was like, it's fine. I'm going to do it anyway.
Right. Y'all just sit back. I'm going to grab my slingshot.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so, right, those three categories. It can be the friends and family. It can be an authority figure or just some random person, in your life, like a Goliath that seems like they have it all together and they're all that and a bag of toast.
Bag of toast.
I made that up. Can you tell?
I like it.
I think that when we look at our naysayers, first of all, it's good to recognize and take time to consider who the naysayers are in our life. That's why I asked that question.
Oh, yes.
Because
I know
oftentimes we're so used to it.
Yeah.
Just like David was with his brother. But it's important to stop and consider, sit with God and recognize these people in our lives. And I'm not saying don't talk to them ever again for the rest of your life, but you need to know where you stand with people.
And you need to know what bucket they fit in.
Right. And so you can respond in the appropriate way and look at where they're coming from. And I think the most important, there are a few things we should always remember about our naysayers. It's obviously not about us.
Right.
Right? And David knew that because he was very confident because his time with God, but he knew that his brother's little snarky comments, they actually weren't a reflection on David.
Right.
They were a reflection on his brother. Same with the king, same with Goliath. Not a reflection on David, but how easy is it for us to take all of other people's baggage and they spew it onto us and we take it on as our own.
Yeah, there's that one quote that says, when you finally learn that a person's behavior has more to do with their own internal struggle than it does with you,
yes,
you learn grace.
Yes.
And so recognizing that about those people, like you said, doesn't mean you just shut them out. It just means, okay, I know going in, like, oh, look, it's raining outside, so I'm going to bring an umbrella, right? You just enter into that situation prepared.
And you mentioned earlier, and I really liked this. This is when, first of all, we know this confidence comes from a connection with the Lord, because who we truly are, our purpose and our identity is in Him and through Him. But, and when that is clear and we can keep referring back to that, we have so much more strength. But this is when our people come in handy, you said.
You have to know your people. You have to know who really genuinely cares for you and wants your best interest. And it's less people than you think.
Sad, y'all, but so true.
Yep.
It's so true. In so many of our relationships, whether we realize it or not, we're seen as competition. Not because of anything that you've done or that I've done, but because of where their experiences and all the things in the other person's heart, their insecurities, just like all these naysayers. And it's not always ill intention. It's not going to come across that way. But somebody said yesterday, I don't know, maybe it was like Mom's prayer group. She said, somebody always told me, first you go to the throne, then you go to the phone. So always connect with God first about something and then reach out. And sometimes once you've done that, there's so much clarity, you don't need to get on the phone to phone a friend, right? But oftentimes we do. Yeah. And it's to talk that thing through, not for reasons of gossip and slander and malice and all those things, but like, hey, I need some help. I need some direction. I need some clarity. Yes. Am I seeing this through the proper lens?
Agreed.
So we hope you don't have any naysayers in your life.
Chances are you do.
Yeah, because, we're all human. And I hope that this is a tough one. You know how I always drop a bomb on the end.
Right. Are you getting ready to do that?
Dang, I'm sorry. I think that we should also all consider, am I a naysayer in anyone's life? That is a hard thing. But, sometimes it's the people that we're closest to. It might be your kids. It could be your spouse. But are you a naysayer in someone's life? And we need to be held accountable for that and think through that as well.
It's super sneaky. Because I can tell you right now, yes. I mean, I think of the ways that I will, and naysaying and manipulating can be close.
Ooh.
So I will say to my son, okay, great example, benign example. We eat out during the week one time. Okay, so my son can get lunch out one time a week. And so yesterday, it was Monday, and he said, Mom, I really want to really want my to-go meal. I want my out meal right now. And I said, well, it's only Monday.
Yeah.
So I'm making him question himself. I'm already like feeding that little seed of question yourself.
Right.
And so I changed the wording to, I said, I'm sorry, it's Monday. Is that when you want to use this opportunity?
Oh.
But I immediately recognized it for what it was.
Wow.
A year ago, I wouldn't recognize that.
And it's so subtle.
So subtle.
It wasn't like some sort of, snarky comment back.
Right.
It was just, making someone doubt or question the choice that they've chosen.
Exactly. In the name of concern, by the way.
Oh, of course. Always.
So, yeah.
Oh, food for thought, people. Okay.
Dr. C, figure that one out and send me a report.
Yeah. Well, we hope this has given you a lot to think about for the week. But so we've enjoyed having you today, and we look forward to being with you next week on The Sinner and the Saint.